Hope we all had a great day with trading. Just wanted to do, once again, 3 recaps today. I wanted to cover my first NQ trade I had taken last night around 12:30. And then I also wanted to cover my NQ shorts from this morning and my Tesla call position. So getting right into it here, right off the bat here, this is Nasdaq 100, NAS1. And we saw that last night, Asia had a pretty nice open. For those of you that don't know, with Asia and European markets, typically those markets are very low volume profile and instead are more technical based. So when I'm looking for trades, typically I like to see how Asia and London market reacts. Where are we seeing these highs and where are we seeing these lows form? And with Asia here, we had created this really nice high that had formed at 21,801.25, right? And so market sort of had this period, wasn't really interested in any trades from this point on. Didn't want to take any on the lows here, didn't want to take any on the highs. So what I was watching for was to see if we could get a formulation at the highs prior to a sweep. So obviously when I like to see a range being formed, I like to look for a range high and a range low, right? And we see on Nasdaq here that we had actually started having this nice little uptrend that was forming here. Asia was creating higher highs and lower highs. So the biggest thing I was looking for was to see if we could see a change of state of delivery form on the 5-minute time frame. And we see here, we actually did. So we had created this higher high here, this lower high, and we had created a higher high here. But what's the difference with this higher high in comparison to the other one? Well, we had actually created a change of state in delivery on the 5-minute time frame. Once again, change in state of deliveries are a great way to spot reversals when you are trading. So it's important to always mark those on your chart, especially when you're sweeping these highs and lows for said indices or stocks, things like that. So here we had formed this change in state of delivery on this 5-minute time frame, right? We had these 3 very nice bullish candles that had formed, created a new high on Asia, followed by a nice bear candle that had actually engulfed the 2 previous ones. And so when I was looking for shorts here, I was looking for a bearish candle close for confirmation on the 5-minute time frame prior to entering a short position. And once again here, when we look at this range, we had these Asia highs. We also had this Asia low that was forming here with London, but I had previously had my take profit at those Asia lows, right? So here we have that Asia low. I had that marked out from last night. And we see here, we have this change of state of delivery on the 5-minute formed, 3 bullish candle movement upwards, followed by a nice bearish reject to the downside. Then we had a little bit of a reject off that SISD where market sort of tried to pull back higher to those Asia highs, was not able to sweep the highs once again, but got within about 2 points of sweeping those highs. And then we saw a 5-minute candle confirmation close below that change in state and delivery. So what did that mean for me as a trader? Well, as I'd mentioned, when I'm looking for especially a bearish change in state and delivery, I'm looking to see that 5-minute candle close happen. And here we had that confirmation. And so I'd entered my put position or my short with Nasdaq, right? Once again, when we're talking about options, we like to say put positions. When we're talking about futures, we say short or long. And here I took a short position on the 5-minute on Nasdaq off that change in state and delivery with that 5-minute candle confirmation close. So I'd actually entered on that next candle. And when you are looking at that change in state and delivery, typically you don't want to see market move back above a range or retest the high of your change in state. And so here we see this 3 bullish candle movement. I'd had my stop loss right at the top of Asia's range, right? Where all this liquidity was pooling at the top here. And so I entered my put position, my short, my Nasdaq short, with my take profit being at these Asia lows. And so here we see, and I'll do a little replay tool for everybody here. So once again, we had seen that this 5-minute had formed a close below that change in state. Then we saw that bearish confirmation here, which is where I entered my short position on Nasdaq, right? And so once again, when we're just breaking this trade down, I entered on this change in state of delivery break with my final take profit being these Asia lows where I wanted liquidity to be swept down here and my stop loss being at the top of this change in state. So these Asia market highs. And we see here, we'll just play it bar by bar right now. And that trade ended up yielding me really good profits. And here I had actually traded micros instead of minis. I think I was in with 5 micros last night. And we see eventually market tests Asia lows, which was my final take profit. So here we see we had tapped Asia lows, and that was a very, very successful 4-to-1 RR trade was absolutely beautiful execution. Obviously, we had a bit of movement with London open here. That happens with different markets when they're opening. You typically see a reaction, which was one of the big things I was watching for. Hence why I gave a very generous stop, which you'll see me do with these change in states, where I had put that stop above, just about a point above those Asia highs, and that take profit at those Asia lows. So that is my first Nasdaq recap trade for you folks. And yes, that's just the first rundown here for that trade. So once again, we wanted to wait for that bearish confirmation below that change in state. I got that bearish confirmation, set my stops just above Asia highs and my take profit at those Asia lows before London and Asia close ended up pulling lower. So we'll move into market today now. Well, just looking at Nasdaq from this morning, we'll do a little bit of a review as to what I was going and looking for. As I'd mentioned on the Discord today, I had a very bearish bias going into market today. A couple different reasons. We had this crazy pull on Friday's market where Nasdaq had created these London highs and New York highs and had just absolutely swept below these previous London and New York lows as well as London lows and continued lower all the way to these hourly previous Asia and London lows where liquidity was pooling, and we didn't even see a crazy reaction. Market just continued lower here, even trying to grab some liquidity from some of these rejections in New York and London market from February 12th. So what I was looking for with market primarily on this hourly, especially when going into today, was wanting to see if we could see a continuation, right? Because typically when we look at downtrends, we see a couple different things, right? We see markets sort of create a trend, a lower high, and then a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, etc. Right? And this is how you notice continuation with the downtrend. Well, what we had seen here is we had this crazy continuation to the downside on the NAS, and then we see this period right here, right exactly in this region with Asia and London, where we were kind of creating this retracement period. I wasn't seeing a lot of confirmation from our bull side. We had a lot of downside movement from Friday's market. So I was anticipating to see more downtrend movement on the NAS coming into today. And then obviously looking at the 4-hour too, we saw quite a bit of continuation of downside, not a lot of bull strength on these 4-hour closes, giving me more insight as to why we might see market reject lower for today's market. So here once again on the hourly, not a lot of bullish confirmation, right? We'd weakened a bit with bears near this 21,670 level, but there just was not enough bull strength to see higher highs or retest prior liquidity. So we move back to this 5-minute time frame here, and let me remove the replay tool right now just so we can see. So what did I notice with market going into today? Well, as I'd mentioned previously, typically when I like to look for my trades, my trading strategy for futures has a very specific process. First of all, I want to watch for sweeps of old highs or lows. Typically, these highs or lows are done within a range, right? So as I mentioned, I like to look for these Asia highs, these London highs, these Asia lows, or London lows as my potential areas of liquidity where we might see liquidity sweeps. Then I like to look for a change in state and delivery. And then if I look for a change in state and delivery, I want to see a confirmation of that change in state of delivery on a lower time frame prior to my entry. And then when I'm looking for my take profit periods, I want to see those previous lows and highs or London or Asia lows and highs as my potential price targets. And for a lot of trades, if I don't see, or if I'm not seeing a 2-hour trade, sometimes I won't take it, or I'll just be looking for a 1.5 to 1 hour trade. So in this example today with NQ, as I'd mentioned, we saw that hourly bias where I was not seeing enough bull strength for potential bullish continuation, hence why I had mentioned on the Discord that I had a very bearish perspective going into market today. And look at what we saw here. Well, London had created this high and this low, which was also Asia's low, and Asia had created this really nice high here. So one of the biggest things I was looking for was either to see a sweep of London highs prior to seeing a change in state of delivery with a continuation of bear side, or I wanted to see a sweep of Asia highs once again, which is actually what we ended up seeing today, followed by a change in state and delivery. So we look at this 5-minute time frame. What did I see here? I saw a beautiful sweep of these Asia highs at 21,801, followed by, guess what we have? A beautiful change in state of delivery on the 5-minute. So gonna mark this out on my chart as my SISD. And here we see right? So what the biggest thing I was looking for this morning was to see a close, a 5-minute bearish close below the SIST level for confirmation of potential more downside. And what was I targeting this morning? Well, as I mentioned for my previous Nasdaq trade, I like to look for these previous lows as my take profit. So we had these London and Asia lows, and that was my primary target when it came to this trade. So we'll just look at this trade now and let this play out and see if we get that confirmation on that candlestick. Here we go. We had that 5-minute confirmation with a retest of that SIST, right? And so I had taken my short position on NQ this morning, put it at the SIST. And as I'd mentioned previously, typically you don't want market to pull above a change in state and delivery. And so I'd had my stop loss just above that SIST here. Because if market pulls above that, you know that the SIST was invalidated. And in this case, this change in state was not invalid. And I had my take profit set at these London and Asia lows. So we'll let this play out now. And we'll just take a fake paper trade entry right now for you guys. And we'll just let this play out. Here we see market retest at SIST, we get that bearish confirmation and continuation, and tagged our London and Asia lows prior to creating a whole new low for London. So this trade, once again, was a beautiful 3.96 to 1R trade. This one I'd mentioned briefly on the Discord. Didn't get the chance to alert my exact entry with the SIST, but this was on the watch list that I had posted. And this ended up being a really good trade. The very lucky thing about this trade, which a lot of you might be seeing, is we had the indices open at 9:30, which was a bit of, one thing you always want to be careful for when you're taking these trades. So I actually almost ended up getting stopped out of this trade entirely. But as I mentioned, we didn't want to see market go above that SIST, and we missed my stop by literally 2.5 points, right? So pretty scary trade in terms of these indices threw market up higher towards that 21,801 level, these Asia highs. It actually tapped those Asia highs and rejected back below. But I stated my trade, as I mentioned once again, stayed true to my system. If I'd gotten stopped out, that's just error on my end. But was confident in my trade and took my closed position here at that 21,701. So that's once again 2 Nasdaq trades I'd taken within the past 24 hours. That was Asia high sweeps, and then also these Asia high sweeps of liquidity here at 21,801. So that recaps the 2 Nasdaq trades I'd taken.